Imagine waking up each morning feeling energized, focused, and confident that the day ahead isn't just another routine cycle, but a real chance to grow, move forward, and truly take control of your life. But let's be honest for a moment. How often do you actually wake up feeling like that? If you're like most people, you're probably pulling yourself out of bed feeling tired, uncertain, or stuck in habits that no longer serve you. The reality is that how you begin your morning isn't only about those first few minutes. It shapes the entire direction of your day, your mindset, and eventually your life. The ancient Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius once said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Today, we're going to explore how you can apply this wisdom in a practical way every single morning, building powerful habits that help you master your mind and take control of your day. If this message resonates with you and you find value in reclaiming your mornings and your life, a simple favor I'd ask is to hit that subscribe button. It truly supports the channel and helps us reach more people who may need to hear this message. Now, let's begin. 1. Wake up early. Let's be real. Most of us have a complicated relationship with mornings. I understand it. Your bed feels like a warm, comfortable refuge, and the snooze button feels like a loyal friend whispering the promise of just 5 more minutes. But here's a truth many people don't talk about. Early mornings can completely transform your life. I'm not saying this just to sound inspirational. This is simply reality. Those quiet early hours before emails start pouring in, before messages start buzzing, before the noise of daily life takes over, are incredibly powerful. They are your window to clarity and control. Imagine waking up just 1 hour earlier than usual, just a single hour. At first it might seem small or even uncomfortable, but that hour can become a peaceful space of uninterrupted time. Think of it as your personal oasis in the busy desert of everyday life. No distractions, no demands, just you and your thoughts. It's time you can use to plan your day, set intentions, reflect quietly, or read something meaningful that grounds your mind in wisdom and perspective. The Stoics understood this better than most. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality," reminding us that the fear of waking up early is often worse than the act itself. It's not the early rising that hurts. It's the story we keep telling ourselves that we'll feel exhausted, miserable, or unproductive. That story is what holds us back. When you rise earlier, you break that illusion and prove to yourself that discipline actually creates freedom, exactly as Stoic philosophy teaches. Yes, it might feel uncomfortable in the beginning, but real growth never happens inside comfort zones. Carl Jung, the brilliant psychologist, expressed this idea powerfully when he said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." That extra hour in the morning becomes the perfect moment to look inward. It's when you awaken, not only your body, but also your deeper self, your true vision, and your authentic purpose. During those quiet moments, insights appear, problems start to untangle, and clarity begins to form. 2. Drink water first thing. Your alarm rings, you slowly get out of bed, and what's the first thing you usually reach for? Let's be honest. Most of us head straight to the coffee machine, searching for that comforting rush of caffeine, that familiar boost we believe we need just to feel awake. And honestly, coffee isn't the enemy. I understand the appeal, but there's a simple truth many of us ignore in that groggy morning moment. Your body wakes up dehydrated. Throughout the night, your brain and body go several hours without water, which means hydration, not caffeine, is what your body truly needs first. So instead of immediately pouring caffeine into your system, begin your morning with a tall glass of refreshing water. Think of it as pressing the reset button for your body. a small yet powerful ritual that prepares your system for clarity and balance throughout the day. Stoic thinkers often emphasized mastering small daily actions because those actions shape a greater life. Epictetus, one of the sharpest minds of Stoicism, reminded us that progress doesn't happen by chance or luck. It happens by working on yourself every single day. Drinking water first thing in the morning is exactly that kind of practice. It's a quiet act of discipline and a signal to your mind and body that you are choosing well-being over unconscious habit. Interestingly, your brain is made mostly of water. When dehydration sets in, mental performance suffers. Focus becomes weaker, memory declines, and mood can shift negatively. Beginning your day by restoring those fluids is like giving your brain a gentle but clear wake-up signal, preparing you to face the day with sharper thinking and steadier emotions. Carl Jung once observed, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." This simple habit, drinking water before reaching for coffee, is a perfect example of transforming an unconscious routine into a conscious choice. Instead of automatically stumbling toward caffeine, you pause and choose clarity and health first. It's a small decision, but it represents something deeper. Reclaiming control over your impulses and choosing awareness over automatic behavior. Third, skip the phone scroll. Your morning is sacred territory. It's a blank page, a fresh beginning, a wide field of possibility. Yet most of us ruin it instantly by grabbing our phones and diving straight into a flood of notifications. That immediate surge of digital information fills your mind with distractions, anxiety, and stress, taking control of your attention before your day even truly begins. Think about it for a moment. 1 second you're lying peacefully in bed, enjoying the last moments of quiet, and the next you're tangled in emails, breaking news updates, and social media stories from people you barely remember meeting. Why surrender the clarity of your morning to random notifications and algorithms? Stoicism teaches us to guard our inner peace carefully. Marcus Aurelius famously advised, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Your phone acts as the gateway through which countless outside events invade your mental space every morning. By delaying that scroll, even for just 30 minutes, you take back control of your thoughts instead of reacting to whatever the digital world throws at you. Carl Jung also warned us clearly, "We are not what happened to us, we are what we choose to become." Every morning presents a powerful choice. Will you allow external distractions to shape your mindset and direction for the day, or will you intentionally design your morning with awareness and purpose? Skipping that early morning scroll doesn't just protect your mental state, it also strengthens your sense of self. You begin the day knowing clearly who's in charge. You, not your feed. Think about how different your morning can feel when you replace the screen with a moment of silence or reflection. Maybe you write in a journal, read a meaningful paragraph, or simply sit quietly and breathe while collecting your thoughts. You might even reconnect with simple pleasures you had forgotten, like appreciating the quiet or noticing the first light of the sun. When you choose presence instead of endless scrolling, your day begins from a place of clarity rather than confusion. 4. Small wins matter. There's something surprisingly powerful about starting your day with a small act of order. Not a huge achievement, not a dramatic breakthrough, just something simple and within reach. You wake up, pull the covers tight, adjust the pillows, straighten the sheets, and just like that, you've already completed something intentional. You've begun the day with structure instead of disorder. And that's not merely about tidying up a room, it's training for the mind. We live in a culture that celebrates massive transformations while ignoring the importance of small, consistent habits. But the Stoics understood something different. They recognized that greatness doesn't come from dramatic moments alone. It's built through daily discipline, through order, clarity, and focus. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't waste the rest of your life worrying about what other people think of you. It keeps you from doing anything useful." And sometimes a messy environment mirrors exactly that kind of distraction. A mind pulled in many directions, paying more attention to the outside world than the inner one. Making your bed might sound insignificant, but it sends the first message of the day to your brain. I'm in control today. I don't need motivation. I've already started building momentum. That small action becomes the first promise you keep with yourself. And every promise you keep strengthens self-trust. It builds a quiet form of self-respect that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. Admiral William McRaven said it directly. If you want to change the world, start by making your bed. Not because the bed itself will transform everything, but because it establishes a tone. If the smallest tasks are ignored, how can the larger responsibilities be handled well? When you train yourself to complete a tiny act of discipline every single day, you begin to realize how much more you're capable of. The ripple effect is real. Psychologically, it goes even deeper. Carl Jung believed strongly in the symbolic power of our surroundings. He once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The clutter around you isn't always just physical mess. Sometimes it reflects internal noise, unsettled thoughts, and unresolved emotions. When you organize your environment, your mind often follows the same direction. A made bed isn't simply about appearance. It represents psychological alignment. This is how the Stoics approached life, not through perfection, but through purpose. They began each day by asserting control over their time, their space, and their mindset. Making your bed becomes more than a chore. It's a statement. I will not be ruled by disorder. I won't allow my surroundings to dictate my mental state. Even in the smallest actions, I choose discipline. Fifth, morning movement. Some mornings it feels like your body is dragging your soul behind it. Your limbs feel heavy, your head feels foggy, and motivation is nowhere to be found. But the issue isn't that you're lazy or broken, it's simply that your system is still waking up. Your mind may be open, but your body hasn't fully caught up yet. And until both are aligned, you're operating with limited energy. The quickest way to reconnect them is simple. Move. You don't need an intense workout or a sweaty training session before breakfast. This isn't about chasing six-pack abs or breaking fitness records. The purpose is much simpler. Activating your life force. Movement, even gentle movement, signals to your body that the day has begun. A few stretches, a short walk outside, a handful of squats, or a few yoga poses can be enough. Just enough to wake up the nervous system, increase circulation, and remind your brain that you're not a machine going through routines. You're alive. The Stoics valued physical strength not for vanity, but for vitality. Epictetus once reminded us, no great thing is created suddenly. Your energy, discipline, and sense of control develop gradually through repeated daily actions. Morning movement isn't simply exercise, it's a ritual, a quiet gesture of respect toward your body that echoes through your mood, concentration, and even your interactions with others. There's also a strong psychological connection here. Carl Jung spoke often about the deep relationship between body and mind, between the unconscious and how it expresses itself physically. He described the body as the visible expression of the psyche. If your body remains stiff, inactive, or stagnant, it can mirror a mind that feels stuck or drained. But when the body begins to move, the mind often follows naturally. Movement also carries a powerful emotional reset. Feeling anxious? Move. Feeling stuck? Move. Feeling unmotivated or uninspired? Move. Motion interrupts stagnation. It doesn't need to be perfect or impressive. The important thing is simply to begin. Once momentum appears, it creates a chain reaction. Energy rises, clarity grows, and suddenly you're not drifting through the day. You're guiding it intentionally. Seneca reminded us that it's not that life is short, but that we waste much of it. And honestly, how many mornings disappear while lying in bed, scrolling endlessly, waiting to feel motivated? Don't wait. Don't negotiate with your excuses. Just start moving before those excuses get louder. 6. Shock your mind awake. There's a brief moment before stepping into a cold shower when your brain instantly protests. Not today. And interestingly, that exact moment, when every instinct wants to retreat, is where change begins. That hesitation is your comfort zone resisting. But if you're looking for stronger mental resilience, emotional clarity, or simply a sharper start to the day, this is one powerful doorway. Cold water, no distractions, no comfort, just you, your breath, and your willpower. Let's be honest, it feels unpleasant at first, and that's exactly the point. The Stoics believed in willingly facing small discomforts, not because they enjoyed suffering, but because they understood something most people overlook. Comfort can slowly weaken the mind. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." In a world where people constantly avoid discomfort, stepping into a cold shower becomes a bold declaration that you're choosing courage, intention, and resilience. Psychologically, cold exposure instantly brings you into the present moment. The sudden shock clears mental fog and forces you to breathe deeply and focus. In a way, your brain begins rewiring itself to respond to discomfort with calm rather than panic. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." That resistance to cold water often mirrors the resistance we feel toward other uncomfortable experiences. Fear of failure, criticism, or uncertainty. Face the water, and you start learning how to face everything else. It also builds what the Stoics called fortitude, true mental resilience. Seneca believed strongly in training both the body and the mind to handle adversity. He practiced fasting. He wore rough clothing. He intentionally chose difficult experiences not for suffering itself, but for the strength those experiences created. Cold showers are simply a modern version of that philosophy, a daily form of resistance training for your nervous system. You step into the cold, breathe through the shock, and in that moment, you prove to yourself that you can handle discomfort without backing away. That kind of confidence doesn't stay in the bathroom. It follows you into your work, your relationships, and the challenges of everyday life. There are also real physical benefits. Cold showers stimulate circulation, release endorphins, and increase alertness. Suddenly, you don't need coffee to feel awake. What you needed was courage. That rush of cold clears the mental fog and brings you fully into the present moment, alert, energized, and focused. But here's the important part. You don't need to start with 5 minutes. Begin with 30 seconds. End your regular shower with a quick burst of cold water. One moment of discomfort, one small victory, one quiet reminder to yourself, I can do hard things. The Stoics believed virtue was built through action, not theory. This is one small act of self-mastery. 7. Journaling. There's something incredibly powerful about giving form to your thoughts. taking the chaos inside your mind and turning it into something visible and tangible. Most people carry a constant stream of worries, tasks, memories, judgments, and ideas, all spinning endlessly in their heads. When that loop runs unchecked, it becomes a trap. It steals your focus, darkens your mood, and clouds your judgment before your day even really begins. That's why journaling isn't just a creative hobby, it's mental hygiene. Spending a few minutes writing with pen and paper can bring more clarity than hours of overthinking. The process is simple. Sit down and write whatever is on your mind. No rules, no perfect grammar, no pressure. Just honest thoughts flowing onto the page. Maybe it's a concern left over from yesterday, a vivid dream you remember, a moment of gratitude, or a realization about yourself. Let it come out naturally. Don't filter it or polish it. This isn't about writing something impressive. It's about clearing out the mental clutter before the day fills it again. The Stoics practiced this long before journaling became popular. They wrote reflections, letters to themselves, reminders, and warnings. Marcus Aurelius kept a personal journal we now know as Meditations. It was never meant for publication and wasn't written for an audience. It was simply a private tool to sharpen his thinking and keep his ego in check. In one passage he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That insight may never have existed if he hadn't written through his struggles and reflections. Journaling didn't just help him reflect, it helped him lead an empire with composure. Modern psychology supports this idea as well. Carl Jung believed the unconscious mind constantly tries to communicate with us through emotions, symbols, and dreams. He wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Writing is one of the most powerful ways to bring those hidden thoughts into awareness. When you journal, you allow your inner world to speak. You begin noticing patterns you never realized were there. Repeating frustrations, hidden fears, or old beliefs guiding your behavior without question. Journaling becomes a quiet conversation with the part of you that rarely gets heard. The part that isn't performing or pleasing anyone. The part that simply tells the truth. And when that honesty appears, something begins to shift. Your situations become clearer. Decisions feel less overwhelming. You start recognizing what truly matters and what is simply noise. Even on difficult days, your journal becomes a safe place. You can be angry, confused, anxious, or uncertain, and it still holds your thoughts without judgment. And on your best days, it becomes a record of insights and small victories you might otherwise forget. Seneca once wrote, "We should every night call ourselves to an account." He believed self-examination was the root of wisdom. Morning journaling follows the same principle, except instead of reviewing the past, you're preparing your mind for the day ahead. 8. Set clear daily goals. There's a particular kind of anxiety that doesn't come from doing too much, but from not knowing what to focus on. You wake up, maybe even feeling motivated, but by midday you're bouncing between tasks, chasing distractions, and finishing the day exhausted without anything meaningful accomplished. That isn't laziness, it's a lack of direction. When your day has no clear target, your attention gets pulled toward whatever happens to be loudest. This is where goal setting becomes powerful. Not the vague, distant goals you see on vision boards. I'm talking about simple, concrete goals you can act on today. Not 20 tasks, not even 10. Just 3. 3 clear actions that move things forward. 3 tasks that create real progress instead of endless activity. Because being busy isn't the same as being productive. If you don't define what success looks like today, your time will be spent reacting to everything that isn't important. The Stoics were extremely intentional about their time. They didn't wander through their day hoping clarity would appear on its own. Epictetus said it plainly. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, decide your direction first, or someone else will decide it for you. Psychology also echoes this idea. Carl Jung spoke about individuation, the process of becoming a whole and directed individual. He believed goals aren't only tools for achievement, they are tools for self-discovery. He famously wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams? Who looks inside awakes?" When you set goals with honesty and intention, you're not just organizing your day, you're shaping who you are becoming. And remember, goals don't need to be massive. In fact, smaller goals often work better. Reply to that email you've been avoiding. Write a single page. Take a 20-minute walk. When goals are simple and actionable, you give yourself the chance to actually complete them, and completion builds momentum. Achievement isn't about the size of the task. It's about finishing it. One completed action builds confidence, while 10 unfinished ones create frustration. 9. Feed your mind. Most people underestimate how sensitive their mental state is in the morning. When you wake up, your brain immediately begins searching for input, something to react to, something to focus on. And what do most people give it? Endless scrolling, outrage-driven headlines, and clickbait designed to spike stress before the day has even started. The worst part is that it happens almost automatically. You think you're simply catching up on information, but what you're actually doing is feeding your mind junk and expecting it to carry you through a meaningful day. The truth is simple. The moment you wake up, your mind is hungry. It craves direction, purpose, and clarity. And just like your body performs better when you fuel it with clean food, your mind performs better when you feed it with quality ideas. If you fill it with noise, you get confusion. If you nourish it with substance, you build strength. The Stoics understood this long before smartphones or social media ever existed. They believed the first thoughts of the morning should be chosen deliberately, not inherited from the chaos of the outside world. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." In today's world, that also includes the content you consume: books, essays, philosophy, podcasts. These become your morning mentors. Reading just 10 pages of something thoughtful, grounding, or challenging can do far more for your growth than hours of mindless scrolling. And it's not about becoming overly intellectual or rigid, it's about being intentional. You're deciding what kind of thoughts shape your decisions, what emotions influence your conversations, and what values guide your life. Because whether you notice it or not, every morning something is shaping you through the input you allow into your mind. Carl Jung once said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." Choosing to read, to learn, to deliberately feed your mind, that's action. It's not wishful thinking. Even Marcus Aurelius began his mornings with reflection and philosophy, not with political noise or endless strategy meetings. He understood that before leading others, he first had to lead himself. And leading yourself begins with the ideas you choose to absorb. This habit doesn't require a dramatic lifestyle change. You don't need to finish an entire book before sunrise. Start small, 10 minutes, a few pages, or a thoughtful podcast that brings wisdom rather than noise. Think of it like tuning an instrument before a performance. You're aligning your thoughts with what matters before the world begins demanding your attention. 10. See yourself succeed. Some people wake up and stumble straight into the day, still half asleep, immediately reacting to whatever comes their way. But others, those who seem calm, focused, and grounded, start their mornings differently. They take a few quiet minutes to see the day before it happens. not on a screen or inside a planner, but in the theater of their own mind. They close their eyes and imagine the person they want to be, the way they want to respond, the way they want to move through the day. Not perfectly, but intentionally, and that makes a huge difference. Visualization might sound abstract to some people, but it's actually one of the most scientifically supported practices for creating real outcomes. When you clearly imagine yourself succeeding, when you see it in detail, your brain begins forming the neurological pathways needed to turn that image into reality. You prime your mind to recognize opportunities, filter distractions, and move toward your goals. It isn't magic, it's biology. Practiced consistently, visualization helps reshape your mindset so your actions align with your goals instead of your fears. Stoic thinkers practiced a similar method long before neuroscience explained it. They used a mental exercise called premeditatio malorum, imagining possible challenges not to create fear, but to prepare the mind. At the same time, they reflected on the person they wanted to become. Epictetus advised, "Practice yourself, for heaven's sake, in little things, and then proceed to greater." Visualization becomes that practice. You rehearse courage, patience, and clarity before the moment of challenge appears. Many high performers use this technique daily. Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps famously visualized every race down to the smallest detail, every movement, every breath. By the time he entered the pool, his mind had already lived the race countless times. His body simply followed what his mind had practiced. That's the real power of visualization. You're not just thinking positively, you're mentally rehearsing success. You're becoming familiar with the version of yourself that already knows how to handle the challenge. And this practice isn't reserved for athletes, it's for anyone. Before an important meeting, a difficult conversation, or a goal you've been struggling with, spend a few quiet minutes imagining the outcome you want. Feel it clearly. Don't just see the task. See the way you carry yourself, the calm in your breathing, the confidence in your response when obstacles appear. Make it vivid and believable. Marcus Aurelius used this same idea in his daily reflections. In his writings, he often reminded himself how he intended to behave during the day, how he would respond with patience, discipline, and clarity rather than react impulsively. He didn't leave his mindset to chance. He prepared it before the pressure arrived. And if that practice helped one of the most powerful leaders of the ancient world, it can certainly help us today. 11. Practice gratitude. It's surprisingly easy to overlook what you already have when your attention is constantly pulled toward what you're missing. Modern life pushes us toward endless pursuit, more success, more recognition, more progress. And somewhere in that constant chase, we forget to notice what's already present. Gratitude isn't just a feel-good idea, it's a discipline, a mental exercise that grounds you in reality when everything around you feels rushed and overwhelming. Your brain is naturally wired to detect problems. That's a survival mechanism. Without conscious effort, your attention will automatically drift toward what's wrong, what's lacking, or what might go wrong next. But when you intentionally pause and focus on what's good, what's working, what's still here, something changes. Your mindset shifts, stress softens, your perspective widens. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology explained it. Seneca wrote that nothing is more honorable than a grateful heart. For him, gratitude wasn't decoration, it was protection. It kept a person steady and resilient even in difficult circumstances. When you choose gratitude, especially during uncertain moments, you reclaim control over your mental state. Psychologist Carl Jung believed much of human suffering comes from disconnection. Disconnection from meaning, from ourselves, and from the present moment. Gratitude acts like a bridge reconnecting us to what truly matters. Jung once wrote that the privilege of a lifetime is becoming who you truly are. Often that process begins not with some dramatic breakthrough, but with quietly recognizing how much already exists within and around you. Neuroscience supports this ancient wisdom. Practicing gratitude increases dopamine and serotonin, chemicals that elevate mood and sharpen focus. At the same time, it lowers cortisol levels, reducing stress and anxiety. Gratitude is not only emotional, it's biological. It trains your brain to notice what's right rather than constantly scanning for what's wrong. Even while leading an empire and facing personal hardships, Marcus Aurelius practiced this mindset daily. He reminded himself to focus on what was good, useful, and true, not because life was easy, but because clarity mattered. He wrote, "Do not indulge in dreams of having what you have not, but reckon up the chief of the blessings you do possess." That perspective didn't weaken him, it made him stable and resilient. Find inner strength. Most people wake up and immediately dive into their to-do list, trying to outrun the stress before it catches them. But what if, instead of rushing into the day, you grounded yourself first? Not with another task, but with a thought. Not just any thought, but one refined through centuries of human experience, challenge, and clarity. Stoic wisdom isn't ancient simply because it's old. It's timeless because it works. The beauty of Stoic philosophy lies in its simplicity. It doesn't ask you to escape the chaos of life. Instead, it teaches you how to meet it directly, with calm, discipline, and strength. Sometimes one sentence is enough. A single line from a Stoic thinker, held in your mind like a compass, can steady you when the world starts spinning. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Let that sink in for a moment. The thoughts you carry each day are not background noise. They quietly shape the person you are becoming. Reflecting on Stoic ideas in the morning allows you to choose those thoughts consciously. You're not simply reacting to life anymore, you're preparing for it. Think of it as putting on emotional armor before stepping into the battlefield of the day. When you begin the morning with a single Stoic reflection, you establish your psychological tone. You decide beforehand how you will respond to interruptions, criticism, uncertainty, or setbacks. Instead of reacting impulsively, you move with intention. Instead of losing your center, you return to it. This is what Epictetus meant when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." From a psychological perspective, this habit has deep significance. Carl Jung emphasized the importance of examining our inner world regularly. He believed that when we fail to reflect consciously, our unconscious mind quietly controls our behavior without us realizing it. Jung once wrote, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." Morning reflection, then, isn't just philosophy. It's psychological self-defense, and it doesn't require hours of meditation. You don't need a long journal session or a perfectly quiet environment. Just choose one quote, one sentence that resonates with you. Read it slowly. Sit with it for a moment. Ask yourself what it truly means, not in an abstract philosophical sense, but in the context of your own life. How does it apply to that meeting you're anxious about, the relationship you're navigating, the challenge you've been avoiding? Stoicism isn't meant to stay trapped inside books. It's meant to live through your decisions. The more often you practice this, the more grounded you become. You start noticing when your mind wants to spiral into unnecessary drama. You recognize when your ego wants to react or when fear wants to take control. And in those moments, the line you began your morning with quietly returns to guide you back. That single sentence becomes a quiet force, bringing you back to yourself. 13. Connect with nature. There's a type of exhaustion that has nothing to do with sleep. It's the fatigue that builds when your life unfolds entirely indoors, under artificial lights, behind screens, surrounded by constant pressure and noise. Your mind becomes overstimulated while your body remains underused. You're always connected, always reacting, and slowly, almost without realizing it, you begin to feel disconnected from the world, from your body, and even from yourself. Sometimes the solution isn't more productivity. Sometimes it's simply stepping outside. It sounds almost too simple to matter. But spending just a few minutes outdoors, breathing fresh air, feeling the ground beneath your feet, letting sunlight or even cool morning air touch your skin can shift your entire mental state. This isn't just about leaving the room. It's about reconnecting with something ancient and essential. Long before cities, algorithms, and packed calendars existed, human life moved with the rhythms of nature: seasons, wind, sunlight, soil, and birdsong. Even though our world has changed, our biology still remembers that connection. The Stoics never saw themselves as separate from nature. In fact, their philosophy was rooted in aligning with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote about adapting yourself to the life you've been given and accepting the world around you with appreciation. Nature, for the Stoics, was never just scenery. It was a teacher, a constant reminder that everything flows, everything changes, and everything is connected. Carl Jung shared a similar perspective, though through psychology. He believed modern humans suffer not only from trauma, but from a deep separation from the natural world. Jung once described natural life as the nourishing soil of the soul. When that connection disappears, people often begin to feel restless, anxious, and ungrounded. It's no coincidence that a simple walk outside can calm your mind more effectively than hours of overthinking. And you don't need a weekend retreat in the mountains to feel this effect. Start small. Step outside for 5 minutes in the morning. Feel the cool air or the warmth of the sun. Notice the sky above you, the movement of the trees, the quiet rhythm of the world continuing around you. It's not about turning it into another productivity task. It's about remembering that life exists beyond the noise of your schedule. Ancient thinkers often reminded us that nature carries a quiet wisdom. When you spend time in it, even briefly, you begin to feel less reactive. Problems seem smaller, urgency softens, and slowly you begin to feel more human again. 14. Fuel for your mind. There's a reason many mornings feel foggy, sluggish, or scattered, and it's not always because of a lack of motivation. Often it's because you're trying to run a high-performance system on empty. We talk endlessly about mindset, productivity, and discipline, but we often forget a simple truth. Your brain is a physical organ. It doesn't run purely on thoughts or determination. It runs on fuel, and the quality of that fuel matters. Too often, breakfast becomes the first casualty of a busy schedule. In the rush to start the day, people grab whatever is quick or skip eating entirely, hoping caffeine will carry them through the morning. You're rushing out the door, so breakfast becomes optional. Maybe you skip it altogether, or you grab something packaged, sugary, fast, and hollow. It gives you a quick spike, sure, but not long after comes the drop. The mental haze, the short temper, the lack of focus. And suddenly, your day feels harder than it should. Not because you're incapable, not because you lack willpower, but because your body never received what it required to function at its best. The Stoics would see this as a quiet form of self-disregard. Epictetus taught that no one is truly free if they are not in command of themselves. That command extends beyond thoughts and words. It includes how you treat your physical body. Choosing to begin your morning with real nourishment is an act of discipline. It's self-respect made visible. Let's make it practical. Your brain is not powered by motivation alone. It relies on nutrients. Protein helps regulate blood sugar and stabilize energy. Healthy fats assist with concentration and hormonal balance. Whole foods digest steadily, giving you consistent fuel instead of sharp spikes and crashes. Eggs, avocado, Greek yogurt, nuts, oats, foods that sustain. Compare that to pastries, soda, or energy drinks that excite you briefly and then leave you depleted. When you intentionally choose real food in the morning, you're doing more than eating. You're sending yourself a message. I am preparing to perform. I am preparing to think clearly. I am preparing to stay steady. Carl Jung recognized the deep connection between body and psyche. He saw the physical and psychological as intertwined, not separate systems. In his words, the mind is like the eye. It cannot see itself without reflection. Part of that reflection is how we treat our bodies. The quality of what you consume becomes the quality of your focus, your emotional stability, and your decision-making. This isn't about perfection or strict rules. It's about awareness. Ask yourself something simple. Would you expect a professional athlete to train intensely without proper fuel? Would you expect a surgeon to operate while lightheaded and undernourished? Then why expect yourself to make strong decisions, remain calm under stress, or lead effectively if your most basic physical needs are ignored? Mastery begins with foundations, and food is one of them. Speak life into your day. For many people, the toughest fight in the morning isn't against the alarm clock. It's against the quiet voice in their own head. That subtle inner critic appears before your feet even hit the floor. It replays mistakes. It questions your capability. It plants doubt before the day even begins. It's not dramatic, but it's persistent. And if left unchecked, it quietly shapes your mood, your posture, your confidence. This is why affirmations, when practiced intentionally, are not shallow positivity. They are mental strategy. They are countermeasures. You're not simply repeating phrases. You are interrupting an old internal pattern and replacing it with something deliberate. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. As a Roman emperor carrying enormous responsibility, he didn't begin his mornings with public speeches. He began with private reminders. In Meditations, he wrote that the soul takes on the color of its thoughts. Whatever you consistently think and repeat begins to tint your perception of reality. It shapes your reactions. Eventually, it shapes your identity. Affirmations are conscious coloring. They take seconds, but their influence extends throughout the day. Saying, "I choose how I respond," or "Today I act with clarity and control," might feel unfamiliar at first. But your mind is always listening, especially when it's your own voice speaking. From a psychological perspective, Carl Jung emphasized how language molds identity. He believed words carry force. When you speak words of strength, steadiness, and direction, you are not merely producing sound, you are reinforcing belief. You are instructing your subconscious. You are setting a tone. This doesn't require dramatic mirror speeches or exaggerated slogans. What matters is sincerity. Choose statements that resonate, even if they stretch you slightly. Speak them with intention. Think of it as planting seeds in the soil of your mind. Seeds need repetition and reinforcement, and say them out loud. There is power in hearing your own voice declare something firm and grounded. Sound creates presence. When you audibly affirm discipline or calm, doubt finds it harder to dominate. Even if it feels uncomfortable, even if your voice is quiet, say it anyway. You're not speaking only for who you are in this moment, you're speaking for who you are becoming. Seneca reminded us that courage is built through courageous acts. Confidence works the same way. You don't wait to feel confident before you speak strength. You speak strength first. Over time, you embody it. Affirmations are daily repetitions of that small bravery. You don't have to control every outcome of the day ahead. You only need to take ownership of how you begin, because the way you start often determines the tone of everything that follows. Each small intentional action compounds. Each quiet decision builds identity. Strength isn't discovered, it's practiced. Clarity isn't found, it's chosen. Peace isn't stumbled upon, it's trained. If this resonated with you, there's another video waiting that goes even deeper into strengthening your inner discipline. It may be exactly what you need next. Thank you for being part of this journey where we don't chase perfection, we build presence. Until next time, remain steady, stay grounded, and continue walking the disciplined path forward.